So this video is just going to provide an overview of the Ethereum Name Service, which I will refer to as the ENS, the EthTools.com implementation of functionality for interacting with the ENS, and a number of other resources that are available online if you want to find out more or interact with the ENS in any capacity. I have in the background of this video the Wikipedia page for the Vicare auction, which is an economic theory from the aptly named auction theory, which is implemented in the ENS contracts. The idea of this theory, which it gives rise to its other name, which is the second price sealed bid auction, is that people submit their bids for a domain name, the amount at which they value a domain name, in an anonymous fashion, and then at a later stage they reveal those bids. The winning bidder wins the domain name, but they only pay the second highest bid. So for example, if bidder A bids 10 Ether and bidder B bids 20 Ether, then bidder B wins but only pays 10 Ether. The idea here is to make sure that the entity who places the most economic value on a domain name gets the domain name. In practice, one could argue that it does not really work as a result of a common issue with a number of economic theories, which is the lack of human rationality. A lot of economic theories assume that humans act rationally, whereas I'm sure we all know that this is not necessarily the case. Ethereum is relatively anonymous in that we cannot definitively discern who owns an Ethereum address, so we cannot tell who has been bidding on domain names unless they tell us. There have thus far been a large number of extremely large bids on ENS domain names, and I can't help but feel that not all of these domains are going to be developed. That said, the reasoning behind using this style of auction was in an effort to prevent what has happened with the traditional domain name system, whereby entities have purchased domain names for resale. I'm not going to get into a debate as to whether that is reasonable or not. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but in this case, the ENS creators were pretty clear on what they were trying to achieve. So, in practice, the way it works is an ENS auction lasts for 5 days, and in the first 3 days, people interested in the domain can submit their bids. In the final 2 days, they're required to reveal those bids. The smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain discerns who has the highest bid and grants them ownership of the domain at the end of the auction. There are a number of economic incentives built into the ENS contracts, or rather disincentives. For example, if you do not place the highest bid, that is to say, if you lose the auction, then you only receive a 99.5% refund of your bid. All of these situations and incentives and disincentives built into the contract are based on economic theory, the basic idea of which is to make sure that only people that really want the domain are bidding. If you're bidding in a manner so as to simply bid someone up, for example, it's still going to cost you money. So you should not do that. that is essentially the idea. Now, I'm just going to briefly go over some of the tooling and websites available to you if you want to read into this further. Firstly, we've got the main ENS website, ens.domains, which gives a basic overview of, I say basic, it gives a full overview of the ENS system, the ideas behind it and how it works. It links to documentation, the source code if you're interested. I say that, in my opinion, if you're interacting with any smart contract on the blockchain, regardless of your level of knowledge, it's worth having a look at the source code just to make sure that it's not clearly doing something malicious. You wouldn't want to, for example, interact with a contract which clearly takes your Ether and sends it to someone else's address. There's a lot of information and there are links to documentation and other pages. For example, the official registrar DApp, which I have opened here. This is similar to what we offer over at EthTools.com, although of course I'm biased and would argue that EthTools.com provides a more complete interface for the ENS. This service essentially allows you to look up, register and bid and unseal your bid, finalize your bid. It allows you to go through all of the various steps of the auction process. EthTools.com differs in that we use a backend rather than simply a JavaScript front end. So we manage the process from end to end. We store details of auctions that you've bid on and provide an interface that makes it as easy as possible for you to bid on and for you to reveal your auctions. In addition to that, once you have won an auction, we provide management tools so that you can manage those domain names and set where they resolve to, and just generally give a full and complete interface for the ENS. One of our big selling points is that we have developed a full blockchain explorer behind the scenes which powers all of our functionality. So whereas things may not necessarily be particularly clear with other interfaces, we provide all of the information on one screen and it updates as and when things happen. So for example, when you submit a bid, we will show you that it is confirming and we will show you once it has confirmed. So I'm just going to carry on and show you some other tools. Of course, as I just mentioned, there's the official registrar DApp, and there is also My Ether Wallet. My Ether Wallet is relatively popular, and a lot of people know about it. I have not actually used the ENS functionality, but again, it is relatively similar to the registrar.ens.domains DApp in that it provides a front-end interface for doing the various stages of the auction process. Obviously, at the top of this screen, you can see this relatively angry message relating to security. Recently, there has been a large number of phishing attacks whereby people have been tricked into signing into their wallets on fake copies of websites, particularly My Ether Wallet. I would suggest that you read up on this, but the basic idea is your private key is what you use to sign transactions, what you use to bid on auctions, but it also provides all access to your account and any funds contained within. So you need to make sure you keep it safe. Make sure that you are not entering it into websites that are not what you expect them to be. So for example, you shouldn't click on links, and you should make sure that you are typing the exact website that you expect to visit into the browser bar. Now, finally, I just want to make one thing clear. One of the great things about the Ethereum blockchain and the fact that it is a decentralized network of computers is that as long as you keep control of your private key, you can interact with contracts at any point from anywhere. What that means is, if, for example, EthTools.com were to go down, which of course we hope would never happen, but if it were to happen, you can still reveal your bids or place bids or finalize auctions using other platforms. Likewise, if you have previously bidded on an auction using my Ether wallet or registrar.ens.domains, but have come to find their interface to not be appropriate for your needs, then you can either import those bids and auctions into ethtools.com and continue the process through our platform, or alternatively, if you are more technologically savvy, you can interact with the blockchain directly using the command line. My point here is it's not so much simply marketing my product, but rather to make it clear, having seen a number of questions and issues from people on forums stating that they had lost their bids, that they couldn't reveal their bids, etc., etc., that as long as you make sure to keep your private key safe and secure, and you remember the details of your bids, for example, the bid amount and the salt that you used when submitting your bid, then it is impossible to lose access to your bid or to be unable to reveal it. As mentioned, that is one of the great things about a decentralized system and one of Ethereum's big selling points.